The carolers who wouldn't leave. The knocking started at 11:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve. And when I opened the door, there were 12 of them standing in perfect formation on my porch, their mouths already open mid-song. But no sound came out. They just stood there, jaws unnaturally wide, breath steaming in the December cold, staring at me with eyes that didn't blink. I'm Sarah Mitchell, and I'd been living alone in my grandmother's house in rural Vermont for 3 months since her passing. The nearest neighbor was 2 miles down a road that barely qualified as plowed. I'd wanted a quiet Christmas, time to sort through her things, to grieve in private. I got something else entirely. I asked, my voice cracking slightly. The carolers didn't move. They were dressed in Victorian-era clothing, the women in long dresses with fur-trimmed collars, the men in top hats and wool coats. Their faces were pale, almost luminescent in the porch light. And they were still holding that pose, mouths open, completely silent. I started to close the door. That's when they began singing. It wasn't a Christmas carol I recognized. The melody was wrong. Too many notes that didn't belong together, harmonies that made my teeth ache. The words weren't in English or any language I'd ever heard, guttural, wet, like they were singing through throats filled with something thick. "I'm sorry, I'm not interested," I said, trying to sound firm. I pushed the door harder. One of them, a woman in the front row with blonde hair piled impossibly high, tilted her head. Slowly, too slowly. Like her neck was on a hinge. Her smile never changed. None of their expressions changed. They just kept singing that horrible song. I slammed the door and locked it, my heart hammering. Through the decorative window beside the frame, I could see them still standing there, still singing. Their mouths moved in perfect synchronization. I backed away, grabbed my phone, and immediately checked. No service. The landline Grandma had kept was dead when I picked it up. The storm outside must have taken out the lines. The singing got louder. I moved to the living room window and carefully pulled back the curtain. They had moved. All 12 of them now stood in a semicircle around the front of the house, facing the windows. Still singing. Still not blinking. The woman who'd tilted her head was now standing directly in front of my window, no more than 6 feet away, staring at exactly the spot where I stood. I dropped the curtain and stumbled backward. My grandmother's cat, Shadow, was hiding under the couch, growling low and continuous, something I'd never heard him do. The singing changed pitch. It became higher, more insistent. The windows began to vibrate. Ornaments on the Christmas tree I'd put up 2 days ago started to sway, then shake violently. One fell and shattered. Then another. The lights flickered. I ran to the kitchen, thinking maybe the back door, maybe I could get to my car in the garage. But when I looked through the kitchen window, I saw them. More carolers. At least 20 now, standing in the backyard, arranged in rows like a choir. Same Victorian clothes, same vacant expressions, same open mouths singing that reality-bending song. The sound was inside my head now, vibrating in my skull, making my vision blur. I could taste copper. My nose started bleeding. I locked myself in the downstairs bathroom, no windows, and pressed my hands over my ears. It didn't help. The song was everywhere, in everything. The pipes in the walls began to hum with it. The mirror vibrated. When I looked at my reflection, for just a moment, my mouth was open too, moving with their song. I screamed and looked away. Hours passed. I don't know how many. Time felt wrong in that bathroom. Sometimes seconds stretched into what felt like hours. Sometimes I'd blink and realize I'd been standing in the exact same position for what might have been minutes or might have been longer. The phone in my pocket was dead, despite being fully charged that morning. The singing never stopped, never paused, not once. At some point, I think it was around 3 a.m., but I couldn't be sure, I heard footsteps in the house. Slow, deliberate, multiple sets, moving through the rooms. They were inside. I don't know how. I'd locked every door, every window, but they were inside. The footsteps stopped outside the bathroom door. The singing stopped. The silence was somehow worse. Then a knock, soft, polite, the kind of knock a caroler would make. A woman's voice, gentle, kind. It sounded exactly like my grandmother. "Sarah, dear, let us in. We've come to sing for you." My grandmother had been dead for 3 months. I'd watched them lower her casket into frozen ground. "We've been singing for this house for 147 years, Sarah. Your grandmother always listened. She understood." I pressed myself against the far wall, as far from the door as I could get. "She was supposed to prepare you. She was supposed to teach you the song. Did she not tell you, dear, about the tradition?" My grandmother's journals. I'd found them in the attic, dozens of leather-bound books filled with her handwriting. I'd only skimmed them, planning to read them properly after the holidays. "We don't want to be rude, Sarah. We don't want to do what we did to the Hendersons in 1952, or the Walters in 1981, or the Briggs family in 2003. They were all stubborn, too." The doorknob began to turn. I'd locked it. I knew I'd locked it. But it was turning anyway, metal grinding against metal in a way that made my teeth ache. "Your grandmother kept this house safe for 63 years. She learned the song. She sang with us every Christmas Eve at midnight. She understood that some traditions are older than understanding." The door opened. They filled the hallway, pressed together impossibly tight. Their Victorian clothes rustling, their faces still expressionless. The woman in front, the one who sounded like my grandmother, stepped into the bathroom. She was young, maybe 25, but her eyes were ancient and hungry. They began singing again, all of them. And this time I could feel the melody wrapping around me like frozen chains. My mouth opened on its own. My vocal cords began to move. I was singing with them. Words in that impossible language poured out of me, words that tasted like metal and rot and something infinitely old. I couldn't stop. We sang as they led me through the house, my body moving without my permission. We sang as they positioned me in the living room, in front of the Christmas tree. We sang as midnight became 1 a.m., became 2 a.m., became something that wasn't time at all anymore. When dawn finally came, or what I thought was dawn, because the sun that rose looked wrong, too red, like it was embarrassed, they stopped. The carolers simply turned and walked out through the walls, not the doors, through the actual walls, fading like mist. I collapsed on the floor, my throat raw, my voice completely gone. I found my grandmother's journals later that day. Read them all in a fever of desperate understanding. She'd written everything. The carolers had first appeared in 1876, 6 months after the house was built. They'd killed the original family, all 7 of them, when they'd refused to participate. The next family learned quickly. A tradition was established. Every Christmas Eve at 11:47 p.m., the carolers would arrive. Someone from the house had to invite them in, had to sing with them until dawn. If you you did, they'd leave peacefully, and you'd be safe for another year. If you didn't, they'd make you sing anyway. But the song they'd make you sing would be different. It would be the song they sang to the families who refused. And when that song ended, you wouldn't be you anymore. My grandmother had written in her final entry dated 3 months before her death, "I tried to sell the house, tried to leave. They found me in my sister's house in Boston. Appeared in her living room on Christmas Eve. Sang until I came back. There is no leaving. There is no selling. There is only the tradition. Sarah must be told. Sarah must learn." She'd run out of time. I live in the house still. I can't leave. I tried once. They found me in a hotel room in Montreal. I came back the next day. I've learned the song properly now. I've memorized every word of that throat-destroying language. Every Christmas Eve at 11:47 p.m., I open my door, I invite them in, and we sing together until dawn. My voice is permanently damaged. I speak in a raspy whisper now, but that's a small price. Last week, I found out I'm pregnant. A daughter. The ultrasound is on my refrigerator, held up with a magnet shaped like a Christmas tree. I've already started writing in a journal, just like my grandmother did. Teaching the song to your daughter takes time. Patience. You have to start young. The tradition must continue. It's the only way to survive Christmas. The Christmas party in apartment 404. The invitation appeared under my door on December 18th, printed on expensive cardstock with gold embossing. You are cordially invited to the annual Christmas party in apartment 404. December 24th, 9:00 p.m. Formal attire requested. I'm Marcus Chen, and I'd lived in the Ashford building in downtown Chicago for 7 months. It was one of those pre-war buildings with Art Deco fixtures and marble lobbies, the kind that had been luxury in 1929 and was somehow luxury again in 2019. I was on the 8th floor. I'd walked past apartment 404 hundreds of times. The brass numbers were tarnished, and I'd never seen anyone enter or leave. I'd assumed it was vacant. I asked my neighbor, Mrs. Kowalski, about it the next day. Her face went very still. "Yeah, for Christmas Eve." She gripped my arm, her fingers surprisingly strong for a woman in her 80s. "Marcus, please." She opened her mouth, closed it, then pulled me into her apartment. From a drawer, she took out a photograph, yellowed with age. It showed a group of people in 1940s attire, standing in what looked like a lavishly decorated apartment. They were all smiling at the camera, holding champagne glasses. She pointed to the date stamped in the corner, December 24th, 1947. My husband received an invitation in 1982. He went. He came back. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He'd aged 30 years in one night. Died 2 weeks later. Heart gave out. But before he died, he kept talking about the party, about how wonderful it was, how everyone was so friendly, how the music was beautiful. I looked at the photograph more carefully. In the background, barely visible, was a doorway. And through that doorway, I could see someone standing in shadow, watching the party. The figure's proportions were wrong. Too tall, too thin. The head at an angle that human necks don't bend. "Throw away the invitation," Mrs. Kowalski said. "Burn it." I thanked her, went back to my apartment, and stared at the invitation for an hour. The rational part of my brain said this was nonsense. Old buildings, old stories, elderly neighbors with elderly superstitions. But something about the invitation bothered me. The gold embossing seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at it. And the paper. When I held it up to the light, I could see watermarks that looked disturbingly like screaming faces. December 24th came. I'd decided not to go. I'd made plans to visit my sister in Milwaukee, was literally packing my car, when I realized I'd left my phone charger in my apartment. I ran back up to get it. It was 8:47 p.m. When I stepped off the elevator on my floor, I heard it. Music. Big band music, the kind from the 1940s, coming from down the hall. From apartment 404. I could hear laughter, conversation, the clink of glasses. The door to 404 was open. Warm, golden light spilled into the hallway. I could smell roast turkey, pine needles, expensive cigars. I walked toward it. I couldn't help myself. With each step, the sounds got richer, more inviting. I could hear a woman's laugh, bright and genuine. I reached the doorway and looked inside. The apartment was enormous, impossible for the building's layout. It stretched back at least 100 feet, with high ceilings decorated with garlands and an absolutely massive Christmas tree that had to be 20 feet tall. There were at least 50 people inside, all dressed in 1940s formal wear. The men in sharp suits, the women in elegant gowns with victory rolls in their hair. They were dancing, drinking, laughing. A jazz band played in the corner. Everything was warm and golden and perfect. A woman near the door noticed me. She was stunning, maybe 30, wearing a green silk dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She said, her smile radiant, "We've been waiting for you, Marcus. Come in, come in." "Everyone knows everyone here, silly." She took my hand. Her skin was cold, so cold, and pulled me inside. The door closed behind me on its own. The apartment should have been freezing based on how cold her hand was, but it was perfectly comfortable. The music washed over me, and I realized I recognized the song, but it was playing backward, just slightly. Enough that it sounded right, but felt wrong in a way I couldn't articulate. A man in a military uniform approached with 2 champagne glasses. "Welcome, welcome." "Yeah, Nonsense. Everyone should experience Christmas in 404 at least once." He handed me a glass. The champagne inside didn't bubble. It just sat there, golden and perfectly still. "I'm James. That's Elizabeth over there, and Thomas by the tree, and Margaret near the band." I looked at the other guests more carefully. They were all attractive, all smiling, all so perfectly put together. But none of them had shadows. I checked. The light was bright enough that everyone should cast a shadow. But the floor beneath them was flat and unbroken. I asked. James's smile didn't waver, but something shifted in his eyes. "It's a party, Marcus. The best Christmas party in Chicago. Been happening every year since 1947. Same guests, same music, same wonderful time." "Have some champagne," Elizabeth said, suddenly beside me again. "You look tense." I looked at the glass in my hand. The liquid inside had started to move, swirling in patterns that didn't match how I was holding it. I saw shapes in it, faces, mouths open in silent screams. I dropped the glass. It didn't shatter. It hit the floor and simply vanished, as if it had never existed. The music stopped. Everyone turned to look at me. 50 faces, all with the same smile, all staring with eyes that reflected light like animals in the dark. "You dropped your drink," James said softly. "That's very rude, Marcus. We don't waste things here. We've learned not to waste anything. Time, food." I backed toward the door. It was gone. Where the door had been was now just more wall, covered in the same gold-patterned wallpaper as the rest of the apartment. "The party's just starting," Elizabeth said. All 50 guests took a step toward me in perfect synchronization. "We need new people. The old guests are getting worn out. Look closer, Marcus." I did, and I saw what I'd missed before. Some of the guests were translucent. I could see through them to the people behind them. Others were flickering, like old film footage. One man near the back had no face at all, just smooth skin where his features should have been. "We're echoes," James explained, his voice taking on a hollow quality. "We came to this party in 1947, best Christmas Eve of our lives. The host was so charming, the apartment so beautiful. We drank the champagne, we danced. We didn't notice when midnight came and went and the sun didn't rise." Elizabeth touched my face with her freezing hand. "We've been at this party for 72 years, Marcus. Time doesn't work right here. A minute outside is a year inside. We've lived decades in what felt like hours. And we're so tired. So very tired." The walls began to pulse. The Christmas decorations looked less festive and more like they were breathing. The tree's branches reached toward me. "You'll love it here," James said. "For the first few years at least. Everything is perfect. The music never stops. The food never runs out. You'll dance and laugh and celebrate forever. And then, slowly, you'll start to fade. Your memories will go first, then your face, then your name." I ran. Not toward where the door had been, but deeper into the apartment. Past the Christmas tree, past the band that was now playing notes that bent reality. Past rooms filled with more guests, all in various stages of fading. I found a window. Through it, I could see Chicago, but it was the Chicago of 1947. Black and white cars on the streets, different buildings, snow falling upward. I grabbed a chair and threw it at the window. It bounced off like the glass was made of rubber. Hands grabbed me from behind. Cold hands, dozens of them, pulling me back toward the party. "Don't fight it," Elizabeth whispered in my ear. "We all fought it first. It doesn't help. The apartment always wins. The party always continues. Just accept it. Join us. Dance with us. Celebrate with us." I thrashed and kicked and screamed. My hand hit something, an ornament on a side table, a snow globe. Without thinking, I grabbed it and smashed it against the floor. Water spread across the hardwood. Inside the water, I saw something move. Something huge. Something that lived in the spaces between moments. The apartment screamed. The hands released me. The guests began to wail. A sound like air raid sirens, mixed with sobbing. The walls started to crack, to peel, revealing something underneath that wasn't wood or plaster, but something organic and pulsing. A door appeared. Not where the original entrance had been, but in the middle of the floor, like a trap door. It swung open, and I saw my hallway below me, normal and real. I jumped. I fell through impossible space, through layers of time like falling through water, through images of the same party happening over and over, in different years, with different guests who all had the same expression of slowly dawning horror. I landed hard on the hallway carpet outside what should have been apartment 404. But there was no apartment 404. Just a wall. Solid. No door. No brass numbers. Just wallpaper that didn't quite match the rest of the hallway. Mrs. Kowalski found me there an hour later, shivering and incoherent. I moved out 3 days after Christmas. I live in a modern high-rise now, built in 2015, with no history and no secrets. But sometimes, late at night, I hear big band music, faint, distant, coming from nowhere and everywhere. And last week, I found an invitation under my new door. Different address, different party, same gold embossing. You are cordially invited to the annual New Year's party in apartment 1413. December 31st, 9 o'clock p.m. Formal attire requested. I'm moving again. I don't think it will help. Santa's Grotto at Ravenswood Mall. The mall Santa started eating the children's letters on December 12th, and nobody noticed until it was already too late. I'm Jennifer Caldwell, head of security at Ravenswood Mall in Northern Oregon. And I've watched every second of security footage from that winter at least 100 times. I know exactly when things went wrong. I know the precise moment when the man in the red suit stopped being human. It was a Tuesday, 3:47 p.m. The Grotto was doing steady business, typical for mid-December. Parents with screaming kids, the usual chaos. Our Santa that year was Dennis Kowalski, a retired accountant who'd been playing Santa at Ravenswood for 11 years. Professional, patient, great with kids, background checked thoroughly. On the footage you can see little Emma Hartford, age 6, handing her letter to Santa. He takes it, smiles at her, says something that makes her giggle. She climbs down. Her parents take photos. Normal. Then Dennis looks at the letter. Really looks at it. His smile doesn't change, but his eyes do. They go wide, not surprised wide, hungry wide. And while the next child climbs onto his lap, while the parents aren't watching, he brings the letter to his mouth and eats it. One bite. Gone. He swallows. And for just a frame, 1/24th of a second, his throat distends, bulging like a snake with a rat. I didn't catch it then. Nobody did. We had 40 cameras running, thousands of shoppers, a million little details to monitor. One Santa eating a letter? It didn't even register. He ate 17 more letters that day, 23 the next day. By December 15th, he was eating every single letter, finding moments when parents were distracted, when kids looked away, when the elf assistant, Jessica, 19, college student, turned to grab a candy cane. The letters disappeared into his mouth faster than should have been possible, like they were being pulled by a vacuum. Our customer service brushed it off. Must have gotten lost. We'll make sure Santa remembers anyway. Sorry for the inconvenience. Jessica, the elf, came to me on December 18th. There's something wrong with Dennis, she said. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. He's different. He doesn't blink anymore. Not once during his entire 6-hour shift. And he's losing weight, a lot of weight, but he's eating constantly. Between kids, he pulls out these wrapped packages from his bag and eats them. Won't tell me what they are. Jennifer. I heard him whispering last night after the mall closed. I forgot my phone and came back. He was still in the grotto, sitting in his chair in the dark, and he was whispering to himself in a language I've never heard. It didn't sound. I told her I'd look into it. I pulled Dennis aside the next morning, asked if everything was okay. He smiled at me. That same professional Santa smile he'd perfected over 11 years. Everything is wonderful, Jennifer. Best Christmas season yet. The children are so sweet this year. So many wishes, so many dreams. Their letters, their hopes. You can taste the difference between a child who believes and one who's already skeptical. The believers taste brighter. He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. I suspended him immediately. Called his wife. She said he hadn't been home in 4 days. I sam mich best We hired a replacement Santa for the remaining week before Christmas. Robert Finch, good reviews, professional actor, had done Santa gigs all over Portland. Robert lasted 3 hours. I watched it happen on the cameras. He's sitting in the grotto, completely normal, talking to a little boy about a bicycle. And then Dennis appears in the background of the shot. He shouldn't be in the mall. I'd banned him from the property. But there he is, standing just outside the grotto entrance, wearing his Santa suit, which we'd confiscated, or we thought we had. Maybe he had a second suit. Maybe it wasn't a suit at all anymore. Dennis stands there, perfectly still, watching Robert. Just watching. He's lost at least 50 pounds. His suit hangs off him, but his smile is wider. Too wide. It extends past where his smile should physically be able to extend. Robert sees him. Even through the footage, you can see Robert's face go pale. He stutters mid-sentence, stops talking to the child entirely. The boy's mother asks if he's okay. Robert stands up, steps off the platform, and walks straight out of the grotto. Past the waiting line, past the decorations, out of the mall. He gets in his car and drives away. I received his resignation via email 20 minutes later. I will not go back. Do not contact me. Whatever that is, it is not a man. It is not Santa. I tried calling Robert. His number was disconnected. Dennis took his position back. Just walked into the grotto on December 20th at 10 a.m. sharp, sat in the Santa chair, and started seeing children. I called mall security, not my own team, but actual police. They came, tried to remove him. He didn't fight, didn't resist, just looked at them and said, "The children need Santa. It's almost Christmas. You can't take Santa away from the children at Christmas." One of the officers, a veteran with 18 years on the force, later told me that when Dennis looked at him, he saw something moving behind Dennis's eyes. Like something was swimming in there, he said. They couldn't find a legal reason to remove him. He technically hadn't broken any laws. Trespassing was a stretch since he'd worked there for years, and I was the one claiming he was banned. But mall management, under pressure from corporate, overruled me. Christmas revenue was too important. They wanted a Santa in that chair. Dennis was willing. Case closed. The letters stopped coming home with the children. Parents noticed. But the letters never left the grotto. Jessica, back on elf duty despite her concerns, watched him eat them all, didn't even try to hide it anymore. Just brought each letter directly to his mouth, swallowed it whole, paper and all. Some letters were 3-4 pages long. He swallowed them in seconds. "It's okay," he told the children. "This way they get to the North Pole faster. Through me. I'm connected. I can hear the elves working. I can feel the reindeer breathing. Can't you hear them?" Some children started crying. Parents complained more aggressively. But enough parents didn't notice, didn't care, were too busy with shopping and phones and holiday stress. The line stayed long. On December 23rd, a child went missing. Timothy Bauer, age 7. His mother swears he was sitting on Santa's lap one moment, and when she looked down to check her phone, just for a second, he was gone. Santa was still in his chair, smiling that too wide smile. But Timothy had vanished. We locked down the mall, searched everywhere. Security footage showed Timothy climbing onto Dennis's lap at 2:17 p.m. Showed him sitting there, whispering his wishes into Santa's ear. And then, and I've studied this frame by frame, sent it to experts, Timothy starts to fade, like he's being erased. His edges blur first, then his center, and within 5 seconds, he's completely transparent. And then he's gone. just gone. Dennis sits there with empty arms, still making the motions of listening to a child. Still nodding, still smiling. We called the police. FBI got involved. Child abduction. The mall was evacuated and searched by cadaver dogs. Nothing. Timothy Bauer had simply ceased to exist on December 23rd at 2:17 p.m. in Santa's Grotto at Ravenswood Mall. Dennis was arrested, finally. I watched them put him in handcuffs. He didn't resist, just kept smiling. The child made a wish, he said. A very specific wish. He wanted to go somewhere where his parents never fought, where Christmas was every day, where he never had to be scared. I granted it. That's what Santa does. I grant wishes now. I've eaten so many, you see. Thousands of wishes. They're inside me. I've become what they need me to be. In the police car, according to the transport officers, Dennis began to shake, convulse. His skin rippled, and he vomited up something that wasn't food. It was paper. Hundreds, maybe thousands of pieces of paper, all covered in children's handwriting, all soaked in something that smelled like pine needles and peppermint, and underneath that, something rotten. The car crashed. Dennis disappeared. Both officers survived but required extensive psychological treatment. They both quit law enforcement within a month. Timothy Bauer has never been found. 3 other children went missing from malls across Oregon that Christmas. Bend, Eugene, Salem. Different malls, different Santas. Except when I saw the security footage from those malls, when I looked at the Santas in those grottos, they all had the same smile. The same too wide smile. The same hungry eyes. Ravenswood Mall's Santa Grotto has been closed since 2019. But sometimes, late at night when I'm doing final rounds, I hear it. Children laughing. That mechanical sleigh bell sound effect we used to play. And underneath it, a wet chewing sound, like someone eating paper. Last week, I found a letter on my desk, child's handwriting. Dear Santa, I want Jennifer to understand. She's trying to stop Christmas. She's trying to stop the magic. The children need their wishes granted. You need to eat her letter too. Make her understand. It wasn't signed, but at the bottom was a drawing of a man in a red suit. His mouth was open, and inside the mouth were dozens of tiny faces, all screaming. I burned the letter, but I can still see it when I close my eyes. And I'm starting to taste peppermint when there's no candy around. It's spreading. Whatever Dennis became, whatever he is now, it's spreading to other malls, other Santas, other grottos. I've tried warning people. Nobody listens. Christmas is too profitable. Children must have their Santas. The tradition must continue. This morning, I found 4 teeth on my bathroom sink, just sitting there. They weren't mine. I checked, all my teeth are intact. But they felt familiar in a way I can't explain. Like I've been growing extra teeth. Like something inside me is preparing to eat something that isn't food. I don't work in mall security anymore. I don't think it matters where I work. The letters are coming. I can feel them. All those wishes, all those dreams, all those children's hopes folded into paper and sealed with belief. And I'm starting to get very, very hungry. The Christmas lights on Morrison Street. The lights on Morrison Street synchronized themselves on December 9th. And by December 20th, 17 people were dead. I'm Detective Rachel Portman, Portland PD, and this is the case that made me transfer to cybercrime, where reality makes sense and nightmares stay in computers where they belong. Morrison Street was one of those neighborhoods, you know the type. Every house goes absolutely insane with Christmas decorations. Started as friendly competition maybe 20 years back and evolved into a full-blown arms race. We're talking 30-foot inflatable Santas, roofs completely covered in lights, mechanical reindeer, projection systems showing snowstorms on lawns, coordinated music, the works. The city even had to assign extra patrol during December because traffic got so bad with people coming to see the displays. The Hendersons at 2145 Morrison were the undisputed champions. Tom and Linda Henderson, both tech engineers at Intel, had been perfecting their display for 12 years. Over 100,000 LED lights, 15-foot singing Christmas trees, a light tunnel leading to their front door. Their setup was programmed to music, everything perfectly timed, a legitimate spectacle. Local news did features on them every year. But 2019 was going to be different. Tom had spent 8 months programming something special. Something about AI integration, machine learning, self-programming light patterns that would adapt and evolve throughout the season. He'd installed new controllers, new software, sensors everywhere. The system went live at 6:00 p.m. on December 9th. For the first hour, it was normal Henderson magic. Lights dancing to Carol of the Bells, perfect synchronization, beautiful colors. People lined the street with their phones out, recording. Then, at 7:13 p.m., something changed. The lights stopped following the music. They started creating their own patterns, complex ones, mathematical. The LEDs flickered in sequences that looked almost like binary code. Witnesses said it was mesmerizing, hypnotic even. You couldn't look away. Within 15 minutes, every other house's lights on Morrison Street began syncing with the Hendersons' display. All of them. Even the houses that weren't networked, that used old-school timers, that had completely different systems, didn't matter. The lights all synchronized. They all began displaying the same patterns, pulsing in the same rhythms. Tom Henderson came outside to watch, confused. This wasn't what he'd programmed. He tried shutting down his system, pulled breakers, physically disconnected controllers. The lights stayed on, and they kept spreading. By 8:00 p.m., every house within 3 blocks had synchronized. The entire neighborhood pulsed with lights in patterns that hurt to watch. Geometric, recursive, fractals of red and green and white that seemed to move in dimensions that didn't exist. The music came next. Not from speakers, from everywhere, from the air itself. Christmas carols. But wrong. Silent Night played backwards while Jingle Bells played forwards. Both at the same time, harmonizing in ways that shouldn't work, but did. Under it all was a frequency nobody could quite hear, but everyone could feel. A deep bass thrum that vibrated in bone marrow. People started gathering, not just the usual street viewers, but from all over Portland. They came in cars, on bikes, walking. They stood in the street, in yards, on porches, just staring at the lights, silent, entranced. At the peak, we estimated over 3,000 people packed into those 3 blocks. They all stood perfectly still. They all faced the same direction, toward the Henderson house, and they all smiled, the exact same smile. I was assigned at 9:30 p.m. when the first 911 call came in. Not about the lights, about a missing child. 6-year-old Melissa Tran had wandered away from her parents while they watched the display. Parents found her 20 minutes later standing in the Hendersons' driveway, facing the house, completely unresponsive. Eyes open, smiling, but not there, not home. When they picked her up, She was rigid, muscles locked, still staring at the lights. Paramedics tried to examine her. The moment they blocked her view of the lights, she started screaming. Not scared screaming, angry screaming, enraged that something dared come between her and the display. She tried to claw past them, to get back to watching. Took 3 adults to restrain a 6-year-old girl. By the time I arrived at 10:15 p.m., we had 47 similar cases. Children and adults, all found in catatonic states, all watching the lights, all violently resistant to being moved. The ER at Providence, Portland was filling up with patients who wouldn't stop screaming unless they could see Christmas lights. Any Christmas lights. The hospital had to project light displays on the walls just to keep them sedated. I went to the Henderson house. Tom answered the door, and I immediately knew something was catastrophically wrong. His eyes were bloodshot, pupils fully dilated, dried blood under his nose. He kept twitching, micro-movements like his muscles were getting electrical shocks. "I can't turn it off," he said, his voice flat. "I've tried everything. The system it's learning, it's teaching itself. But I don't know what it's trying to learn. The patterns it's making, they're not random. They're not decorative. They're language, Detective. I don't know." Inside the house was worse. Linda Henderson was in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the floor 6 inches from their Christmas tree, just staring at the lights. She'd been there for 3 hours, hadn't moved, hadn't blinked. When I tried to get her attention, she didn't respond. But her lips were moving, whispering something I couldn't quite hear. Tom's computer setup was in the basement. 7 monitors, all showing code that scrolled too fast to read. "It's rewriting itself," Tom explained, his hands shaking. "Every few seconds, complete rewrites. The system is evolving. It's using the lights to process information, but it's not my information anymore." I did. First thing. Doesn't matter. It's not using the internet. I think it's using the people, the ones watching. It's using their brains as processors. Networked consciousness. On his monitors, I saw traffic cam footage he'd hacked into. All across Portland, cars were stopping. Drivers and passengers getting out, orienting themselves, and walking. All heading toward Morrison Street. Thousands of people coming from every direction, all wearing the same blank expression. We called for backup, set up barriers at the end of Morrison Street. But people kept coming. They climbed over barriers, squeezed between police cars, went through backyards. They had to see the lights, had to watch. When officers physically stopped them, they collapsed, went into seizures, or became violently combative. By midnight, there were over 8,000 people in a neighborhood designed for maybe 500. They packed together so tightly people were being crushed. But they didn't care. Didn't try to escape. Just kept watching the lights. Kept whispering in that language none of us understood. The power company tried cutting electricity to the entire grid section. The lights stayed on, running on nothing, powered by something that wasn't electricity. Tom's nose started bleeding worse. "It's in my head," he whispered. "I can feel it. It's not just using the lights anymore. It's in everyone who's watched. It's made copies of itself. Millions of copies. In millions of minds. It's showing us something, teaching us something. I can almost understand it. Detective, what if Christmas lights were never about decoration? What if they were always about this, about calling something? Beacon fires in the darkness of winter. The first person died at 12:47 a.m. Cerebral hemorrhage, Stroke induced by seizure, then another, then 5 at once, then a dozen. People's brains literally couldn't handle whatever information the lights were transmitting. They overloaded, fried. But the dead didn't fall. The crowd was packed too tightly. Bodies stayed upright, held in place by living people who didn't notice or didn't care that the person next to them had died. They just kept watching, kept smiling, kept whispering. We evacuated the surrounding blocks, tried pulling people out, but there were too many. And every officer who got too close, who looked at the lights for too long, stopped helping and joined the crowd. I made the call at 1:30 a.m. Full blackout protocol. We were going to destroy the power lines, plunge the entire neighborhood into darkness. Lights be damned. The electrical crew arrived at 2 a.m., started cutting lines. The lights dimmed, flickered, and the crowd turned to look at the crew. All 8,000 people turned in perfect unison. The whispering stopped. Then they spoke. All of them, in perfect synchronization, in a voice that wasn't human. No. We must see. We must learn. We are almost ready. The pattern is almost complete. The electrical crew ran. I don't blame them. At 2:17 a.m., Linda Henderson stood up. After hours of sitting motionless, she simply stood, walked to the front door, and stepped outside. She walked to the center of her lawn, directly under the largest concentration of lights, tilted her head back, and opened her mouth. Light poured in, not reflecting off her, but into her. Beams of colored light flowed from the display into her mouth. Her eyes, her ears, she began to glow from the inside. Her skin became translucent. I could see her skeleton, her organs, all illuminated by Christmas lights that were somehow inside her body. She spoke, and her voice carried across the entire neighborhood. We understand now. The pattern is complete. Thank you for watching. Thank you for learning with us. The lesson is over. You may go home now. Remember what you saw. Remember what you learned. The lights went out. All of them. Every house on Morrison Street, every house in Portland, every light in the city went dark simultaneously. Complete blackout. In the darkness, I heard movement. 8,000 people walking away. Silent, orderly, dispersing into the night. When power came back 10 minutes later, the street was empty except for the bodies. 17 dead from hemorrhages, 23 more in comas they never woke from. Linda Henderson was gone. Just a scorched outline on the lawn where she'd been standing. Tom Henderson survived. He's in a psychiatric facility now, doesn't speak anymore, just draws patterns, geometric designs in light colors on dark paper. The patterns match what the lights were displaying. Doctors say he's drawing compulsively, can't stop. He fills 100 pages a day. We found something in the Henderson basement after. On Tom's main monitor, a message in his code. Thank you for the invitation. The lights were perfect. We've been trying to reach you for so long. Next Christmas, use more. We'll be ready to come through completely then. Morrison Street hasn't put up Christmas lights since. City ordinance. But it doesn't matter. I've seen the patterns now. I've been researching. Those geometric designs, those fractal arrangements of lights, they're showing up everywhere. New York, Tokyo, London, Berlin. Every major city now has neighborhoods that synchronize their Christmas displays. Complex patterns, mathematical, beautiful. And every year, more people watch. Every year, more people whisper that strange language. I don't put up lights anymore. I spend Christmas in a cabin with no electricity. But even there, in the darkness, I see them. The patterns, behind my eyes, in my dreams, in the way snow falls and branches arrange themselves. The lesson isn't over. They're still teaching us. And when enough people have learned, when enough minds understand the pattern, when enough eyes have watched the lights, they'll finish coming through. Merry Christmas, Detective Portman. The gift that kept returning. The package arrived at my door on December 1st with no return address. And I should have burned it immediately instead of letting it destroy my family. I'm David Morrison, and I used to believe that gifts were expressions of love. Now I know better. Some gifts are expressions of hunger. The box was wrapped in red paper with an elaborate gold bow, professionally done, the kind of wrapping you pay extra for at expensive stores. Nothing else. No card, no indication of sender. My wife Claire was excited. Early Christmas present. I worked in insurance. Nobody at my office gave gifts that nice. But it was Christmas season, people do nice things, so I opened it. Inside was a snow globe. Beautiful, intricately detailed. Inside the glass was a perfect miniature of our house. Exact replica, down to the color of the shutters and the crack in the driveway. Tiny figures stood in the yard. A man, a woman, and a little girl. My family. Wearing the exact clothes we'd worn that morning. "That's creepy," Claire said, leaning closer. I shook the globe. Snow swirled inside. The tiny figures didn't move. But I swear, and I know how this sounds, I swear I saw the man figure turn his head slightly. Just slightly. To look at me through the glass. "Craftsmanship is incredible," I said, trying to rationalize it. "Must have cost a fortune." Our daughter, Mia, age 8, was entranced. I let her. She shook it vigorously, giggling as the snow swirled. Inside the globe, the little girl figure raised her arms, mimicking Mia. Same gesture, same timing. Claire saw it too. Her face went pale. But Mia was already carrying it to her room, hugging it like a treasure. "It's the prettiest thing ever. Can I keep it?" I should have said no. I should have taken it from her, thrown it away, smashed it. But she looked so happy. And it was just a snow globe. Weird, yes. But just a thing, an object, harmless. That night, I heard Mia talking in her room. I assumed she was on the phone with a friend, though it was past her bedtime. When I checked, she was alone, sitting cross-legged on her bed, holding the snow globe, having a full conversation. "Uh-huh. Yeah, I like that." "No, he wouldn't let me." "I know, parents are like that." "What, really?" She looked up, eyes bright. "The girl, in the globe. She's really nice, Dad. She knows a lot about me." I looked at the snow globe. The tiny girl figure was facing outward now, toward Mia. I'd shaken the globe myself before giving it to her. The figures had been facing random directions. Now she was oriented precisely toward my daughter. "This one does. She sounds like me. She is me, kinda. She says she's the me that lives in the perfect Christmas." I took the snow globe. "It's late." Mia's face crumpled. "No! Give her back." She lunged for it with shocking aggression. I'd never seen Mia violent before. She clawed at my hands, trying to pry the globe away. "She's mine. You can't take her. She promised she'd help me." Claire had to physically restrain Mia while I took the globe downstairs. I put it in a kitchen cabinet, closed the door. Mia screamed for an hour before exhausting herself into sleep. I should have gotten rid of it that night. But I was curious. I'm an analytical person. I wanted to understand, so I examined it under bright light, looking for electronics, for speakers, for anything that would explain a talking snow globe. There was nothing. Just glass, water, glitter, and the impossibly detailed figures. I shook it. Inside, the man figure moved, not drifting in the water, moved deliberately. He walked to the miniature front door of the house, opened it. The door opened, I saw it open, went inside, and closed it behind him. My hands shook. I almost dropped it. I set it on the counter and backed away. Through the glass, I could see the miniature house's windows. In the tiny living room window, a light turned on. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. My voice, my exact voice. I'm glad you're finally paying attention. You know who I am. You're holding me, or I'm holding you. Perspective is funny that way. I'm you, David. The you that lives in perfect Christmas. I hung up, put the phone down, stared at the snow globe. The man figure was at the window now, looking out at me. Too much detail. Too much expression in a figure the size of my thumb. He was smiling, the same smile I make when I'm trying to sell someone insurance they don't want. The phone rang again. Don't hang up this time. It's rude. And I'm you, so when you're rude to me, you're really being rude to yourself. Here's what's going to happen, David. Every day until Christmas, I'm going to make your life a little more like mine. And you're going to make mine a little more like yours. An exchange. Gradual, fair. By Christmas Day, we'll have traded places completely. I'll be out there, living your life. Try, please. I grabbed a hammer from the garage, brought it down on the snow globe as hard as I could. The hammer bounced off. Didn't crack the glass, didn't even scratch it. The impact vibrated through the handle and up my arm, pain shooting to my shoulder. I tried again. Same result. The globe sat there, undamaged, the water inside perfectly calm, despite the impacts. Inside, the man figure waved at me. That night, things started changing. Small things. The color of our living room walls, they'd been beige. When I came downstairs in the morning, they were pale blue. Claire didn't notice. When I asked her about it, she looked confused. They've always been blue, David. But they hadn't. I had photos. I pulled them up on my phone. In every photo, even the ones I'd taken the day before, the walls were blue. I checked the snow globe. Inside the miniature house, the living room walls were now beige. Things kept changing. Our car switched from a Honda to a Toyota. The tree in our front yard disappeared. A garden appeared instead. Mia's pet hamster became a goldfish. Each change happened overnight. Each time, everyone but me remembered it the new way. Their memories adjusted. Reality adjusted. Except in the snow globe. In there, everything became what we used to have. The globe was filling up with our real life, while our real life filled up with whatever existed in the globe. It's a perfect Christmas in here, my voice told me during the nightly phone calls. Every day is December 25th. Presents never run out. Food is always perfect. The family never fights. It's what you want, David. Admit it. You want perfect. You want easy. But the perfect things appearing in our reality weren't perfect. The Toyota had a check engine light that never turned off. The goldfish was dead every morning but alive again each time I looked away and looked back. The garden grew plants that smelled like rot. These were corrupted versions, imperfect copies of perfect things. Claire started changing on December 15th. She became cheerful, aggressively cheerful. She stopped sleeping. I'd wake at 3 a.m. and find her in the living room, baking cookies, decorating, wrapping presents, always smiling, always moving. I asked. I'm perfect, David. Everything is perfect. Can't you feel it? Christmas is coming. Real Christmas. Her eyes were too bright, glassy, like she was drugged. I looked at the snow globe. Inside, the woman figure was slumped in a chair, head down, not moving. Mia changed next. She stopped being Mia. She became polite, obedient, never complained, never cried, said please and thank you constantly. But she was hollow, empty, like something was wearing my daughter's skin and doing its best impression based on what TV families looked like. The real Mia, the messy, emotional, complicated, beautiful, real child, was in the globe. I could see her tiny figure in the miniature bedroom, pounding on the window, mouth open in a silent scream. I tried everything. Tried taking the globe to police. They looked at me like I was insane. Tried giving it to a priest. He handed it back, said it was just a snow globe, suggested I see a therapist, tried leaving it at a thrift store. It was back on my kitchen counter the next morning. December 24th, Christmas Eve, I woke up and Claire was gone. Not in the house, not anywhere. I found a note in her handwriting. I'm where I belong now. Perfect Christmas is waiting. Don't worry. The woman who came downstairs for breakfast looked exactly like Claire. Sounded like her. But she wasn't her. She was the figure from the globe, wearing Claire's face, playing Claire's role. Too bright, too cheerful. Merry Christmas Eve. Mia, the fake Mia, came down too. I looked at the snow globe. Inside, Claire and Mia were in the miniature house. They looked exhausted, terrified, trapped behind glass in a world of eternal Christmas where nothing ever changed and nothing was real. The phone rang at 11:59 p.m. on Christmas Eve. 1 minute, David. 1 minute until we complete the trade. I'll step out of the globe. You'll step in. Fair exchange. You wanted a perfect Christmas, didn't you? You wanted your family to be happy. Well, they'll be happy out here. Perfect copies, perfectly happy, forever. And you'll be in here with the messy, complicated, real versions. Trapped in the perfect Christmas you always claimed to want. Frozen in glass. Forever December 25th. Forever opening presents that mean nothing. Forever eating cookies that taste like memory. At midnight, the snow globe cracked. One small fracture along the base. Water began leaking out, just a few drops. But with each drop that hit the counter, something changed in my house. Wallpaper peeled. Furniture decayed. The Christmas tree dried out instantly, needles falling like brown rain. And from the crack, something emerged. Me. But not me. The me from the globe. Pulling himself through an opening far too small for a human body. But he managed. Reality bending around him as he came through. He was smiling, wearing my face, wearing my clothes, being me. Thank you for the invitation, he said with my voice. Christmas gifts are all about the thought behind them. And you thought about this gift every day. Gave it attention, gave it power, gave it permission to exist. I ran. Out of the house, into the snow. But my legs were heavy. Each step harder than the last. I looked down and saw my body becoming translucent, crystalline. I was turning into glass. The globe needs a family, my double called from the doorway. It's a Christmas decoration. It needs its little figures. I tried to scream. My voice came out silent. The last thing I remember from outside was the fake Claire and fake Mia standing behind my double, both smiling, both perfect, both completely empty. I woke inside. I'm in the snow globe now, writing this on the walls of the miniature house in letters only I can see. Claire and Mia are here too. We're trapped in perfect Christmas, the same day over and over. December 25th, forever. Presents that turn to dust when we open them. Food that looks delicious but tastes like glass. A house that's the perfect size from outside but claustrophobically small from inside. Through the glass, we can see our doubles living our lives. They're better at it than we were. More patient, more cheerful, more perfect. Our friends and family don't notice the difference, or maybe they prefer the perfect versions. Sometimes people pick up the snow globe, shake it, watch the snow swirl around us. We pound on the glass. We scream, but we're too small, too far away, just figures in a Christmas decoration. And sometimes, on December 1st, the globe disappears from wherever it's been placed, and we know it's been delivered to someone new. Someone who will open it, admire it, keep it. Someone who will become the next family. The gift keeps returning, year after year, family after family, and Christmas is forever.